digital animation. This is the second part of this little video. I'm going to just do this section in Canvas under the assignment, but this is also part of the string of 3 little sections of a larger video for the welcome video. If you haven't noticed, I extended the deadline on this a little bit. I changed it because I know some of you are having challenges, and I got rid of the spline discussion. So I kind of got rid of one discussion and did this. So this is just for tangents versus isode. We're really going to do just the all version. Maybe 10% of you are going to prefer the isode version, so don't do that version. If you've been struggling and trying to do this ahead of time and you're struggling, I've simplified these instructions. They're all here in purple. I kept the old instructions so you wouldn't be confused. I hope me trying to simplify it doesn't make it worse. But just do these instructions in purple right here. I'm going to walk you through it all. So if you haven't done a save as, do a save as. Command Shift S. You're going to call it tangent. Call it tangents. The next thing is going to be, we're going to call it splines. After you do that part, right, you're going to select the hierarchy from the ground control. So we've done timing and breakdown. And just to kind of give you guys a heads up, you've done timing and breakdown if a lot of your poses aren't on the 10s anymore, right? I have a whole bunch of poses grouped only 2 frames apart. That's like a spin kick. And then I have a few of the kick sequences. Very few are actually on a 10 anymore. What I mean by a 10 is if it's on 10, 20, 30, 40, right? They're all kind of mixed up. And then breakdowns mean you're adding little smaller poses in between the main poses. So you probably have somewhere between, I don't know, 15 and 20 poses total. If you have more, that's great too. All right, so here's my ninja. Here's what he's doing. All right, so I want to select the ground control, right click, select the hierarchy. Right, I think that's all for step 2. Select the hierarchy from the ground control. We are going to wind up giving the ground control keyframes, which we're going to have to delete later. But for now, just select the ground control, select the whole hierarchy. Okay, now we're going to go to the dope sheet. You don't really have to go to the dope sheet. It's under Windows, Animation Editor, Dope Sheet. But this will show you what we're doing a little bit better. But you don't have to do it. You can actually just do it without the dope sheet, but I'm going to use the dope sheet to show you what's happening behind the scenes. All right, if you need to press A on the dope sheet, remember A resizes it. Did you guys see that? Right, F will focus just like before, right? A shows all, right? So I'm going to go to frame number 10. And so what we're going to do is, see how every little pose has a scatter plot. That means like on certain joints I didn't move them, so they didn't get a keyframe. I'm going to now give every single joint and every single control on this document here, or excuse me, on my file here, a keyframe. And I'm just going to go scrub through every single red line and press S. So 21, S. 24, S. 48, S. So every time I see a red line here on my scrubber down here, notice there's not keyframes on the IK handle, on the right knee, on the eye control. I'm going to press S, boom. All of a sudden it makes these. So instead of having this scattered or isolated set of keys, which is where ISO comes from isolated keys, I'm giving a key for all manipulative things. So instead of having a scatter of a bunch of frames here, I'm getting a straight line. So I'm opening this up more. I'm not even looking at my model. I'm just looking right here, right? So all my arms don't have any controls. This is a breakdown, but now they do. Now they have a keyframe. So I'm basically giving a keyframe for every single joint for every single pose. So instead of having a scatter plot, I'm having this. There might be 2 or 3 of you where ISO works better. 90% of us, this is the way to go. So we're just going to do it this way. I'm not there to troubleshoot with you and figure it out. This is just going to be easier. Right, we're going to keep it simple. Right, so instead of a big splotty graph, right, I have this giant just set of lines now. It looks a lot cleaner. It actually makes more sense, right? we're going to play with those later as well. But so you don't really need to do what I just did on the dope sheet. I was just kind of showing you what it is. And people like to see, okay, I see what's happening. So nothing really has changed on the steps. Right? It looks exactly the same because we're at stepped and linear still. All right. So now what we're going to do is now we're going to spline this out, or we're going to add tangents. So before I do the select hierarchy, I'm going to go to my preferences. I'm going to go to Window, Settings, Preferences, and I want you to do two things when we're switching this. Go to the Settings animation. Remember there's two animations? Make sure you go to Settings animation. And where it says Default in Tangent, you're going to choose Auto, and Default out Tangent, you're going to choose Auto. So it was linear and stepped. Now we're going back to Auto. One more thing while we're here. Where it says Graph Editor UI. So it's still under Animation. It's a few scrolls down where it says Graph Editor, and you're going to choose Classic instead of Modern. Classic's just easier to use. It looks more like the old one. Modern used to be a little buggy. I think they fixed a lot of it. So if you're in Modern, you'll be okay. But Classic's what my videos are in, and I'm just paranoid of the bugs, and this is less buggy. Hit save. Now the fun begins. All right, so let's just take one last look at it. So he's lands, low spin kick, kick, does a little Bruce Lee nose thing. All right, right click, select the hierarchy. I've selected every keyframe, right? And every single joint has a keyframe on it, right? We learned that from the dope sheet. Now instead of the dope sheet, we're going to the graph editor. And this is the graph of every single control on my Ninja. It looks crazy. Don't be intimidated. We'll be dealing with that later. And I'm going to select every single keyframe. Every single one. Right? Just drag a box, select them all. Bam. And you're going to go from linear, you're going to go to automatic. Okay? And this is it. Your animation is not going to be perfect after pressing this button. The next phase, the next little assignment, is where we tweak that, and I'm going to show you that in the next little video. All we're going to do is we're going to hit A for auto, and now it's spliny, not steppy. You want to undo it, right? Blocked and organized, and now spliny. And now those curves represent a fluid motion. Okay, so I'm going to close it. I'm going to start at the beginning again, and we're going to see how this looks. So he's got that weird little dope there. That's what we're going to fix on the next part of this process, okay? So he's got a few issues, but not bad. He's dipping a low, he's dipping a little high. We'll fix that out. Otherwise, we're pretty good, okay? That's what you're going to turn in. If you want, let me just double check that list. A little checklist here. We've gone to the animation preference windows, and we switched to classic. We did the auto, went to the graph editor, and then we hit play last, okay? So I'm going to hit save because I've tangented it. Maybe do a save as. The next phase is called splines. The first thing we did was tangent, and now we're doing splines, okay? If you want to, as you're play blasting, you can go up here in the window panel, and where it says show, you can choose none and then show polygons. You might have a NURB or two if you have something you've downloaded. But now it looks a lot more cleaner. It's still not a perfect animation. It still does some weird stuff. Turn this in. This weird one, right? It's not bad though. Got a little more work to do. That's the next phase. Right click, play last. I know PCs have different codecs here. IUV is the best. IYUV is the best one. I've been finding you can also scale it down to 0.25 if you want to make it even a smaller file size. And don't forget to hit browse. You can also convert it to H.264 using the VLC player. You can export and make it H.264. But if none of that works, just turn in what you can and email me if you get stuck. So I'm just going to call this Anim tangents. I'm not even going to put all. I'm just going to put last name and then your last name. It really helps to have your last name because I'm downloading your videos, so then they all wind up in a folder on my desktop. And so if you all call them, you know, animation, it's hard to figure out who's who. So I'm going to hit play blast, and I'm going to turn that into canvas. please email me if you got any issues. But that is this phase that you're turning in, and I extended the deadline till Thursday. But I simplified it, so you're not doing the ISO part, you're just doing this part. And then I'm going to show you next on how to make splines and how to clean this animation up a little bit. Okay.